In this week's edition of 52 Licks, we're going to go back to our little shed session with Dusan Milenkovic's The Magnificent Seven book. We got a whole bunch of great drum transcriptions out of there. First couple we did were from Antonio Sanchez. Now we're going to do a couple from Bill Stewart. Bill had a great record released a little bit, it's probably about 20 years ago, called Snide Remarks. Fantastic record. And he has a tune on there called Fred and Ginger. And he takes a solo starting around 6 minutes in. The tune itself is in 5/4. It's got kind of a swingy-ish feel to it. It's in 5. And the beginning lick that he plays is this kind of triplet-y thing that goes like this. It's in 5, so the first thing you hear is actually going to be the pickup. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's basically going to be the intro. So when you hear me play, I'm playing the pickup to the downbeat. So I'm starting in beat 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So slowly. That's the whole phrase. Obviously, it's the same lick. It's the same 5-beat phrase twice. So let's break down, obviously, the first part of it. Okay, so it's our little triplet pickup's going to start on the bass drum. 2 strokes on the bass drum and then a right-left. We'll close out our triplet. Remember, it comes in on beat 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, foot, right, left. And then that left is going to be our downbeat, and then we go to the right to the rack, and then that finishes out our phrase. It's it. Just kind of using the whole kit. I want to talk about a couple specific things about that phrase that I really like. First of all, it's very similar to an Elvin phrase that I did earlier on this semester. It's another thing that caught my ear. But he does it. He stretches it out a little bit more. It's a similar phrasing, but like I said, he's going to actually square it up and make it a specific triplet. Whereas the way Elvin generally played it would be a little bit more like a flam, or I should say like a rough. So as far as the usefulness of it, I like the fact that it starts low and goes high. We hear everything go high to low, so I'm digging that part. I also dig the part that where the lick starts in the foot, as opposed to having 99.9 licks start in the hands and maybe get the foot involved. We're starting this time with the foot. I really like the very first 2 beats, the digga-da-da. That to me, that part is super hip. So let's spend a minute and see if we can't figure out a couple other little variations of things that capture the essence or the vibe of that little phrase, but gives us a little bit more flexibility so we can do more with that sound or the thing that really captures our attention about it, but find some other useful ways to play it. So first and foremost, instead of just playing the whole phrase, which sounds great, let's just use that to get into some other soloing ideas. So if I just play it in 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So all I'm doing there is taking that and using it as a little cell to throw around, and I'm clearly thinking of it as a pickup the same way that Bill thought of it as a pickup. So I'm still kind of hearing that left as my downbeat. And if I know that left is my downbeat, then I can just kind of solo knowing that my first stroke is going to be to the left, and then I can just kind of see where it takes me from there. Outside of that, it's actually kind of cool to flip the sticks around. If we're going to take the fact that comes a little bit from an Elvin phrase, if we take an idea that we got from an earlier lick that we heard Ari Honig play that was actually a variation of his on an Art Blakey lick. The Art Blakey lick basically did triples between the foot and the 2 hands, but instead of just looping the same hand pattern right left, what Blakey did is he would alternate foot right left, foot left right. go check out that video and get a little bit more information about that. Let's apply a similar concept where we just flip our hands around. So this time I'll play foot, foot, left, right. That gives us some kind of cool, it gives us a cool beginning to a phrase. Move these brushes out of the way. So all I did was flip it around, and then when I flip it around like that, one thing you'll notice is that now all of a sudden the right becomes the downbeat. So I can play kind of regular stuff. What I did there at the end was I used that pickup, and then I just played a good old, which we hear all the time in bebop. Right? So I can play. So just by flipping the sticks around, by flipping the sticking around, now all of a sudden I have a little inversion of that phrase. Another thing to do with that phrase is to kind of, we talked about how it's like a low to a high sound, right? So I can take the same phrase, and instead of playing two strokes in the foot before playing floor tom and snare drum, what if I instead only played one in the foot and then played floor rack? So I get this, right? Which is the inverse of, right? And again, what we're doing this time is we're pretty much just trying to highlight the low to high sound. So that's another little variation of that phrase. Matter of fact, I could do something like that and actually play the whole phrase and try to come out of that phrase to where I actually play, like I said, the whole 5-beat phrase. But if I just revoice it like that, then I can kind of come up with some interesting little crashes there on my left because of where my hands are. Now all these are just slight variations of that original idea. And ultimately, that's what we're looking to do with these phrases, is learn the phrase itself, use that phrase, but find other little variations. Because that's what Bill did. That's kind of an Elvin phrase, but it doesn't sound like Elvin anymore when Bill Stewart plays it. It sounds like Bill Stewart. And the last thing I want to mention is, every time I hear a phrase that's in triplets, I always try to see if I can't find some way to make that phrase fit into duple. And if I play something that's normally in duple, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I can kind of tripletize it, right? So I could play that same phrase, but just as eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and, right? 1, 2, 3. I can either play it right on the downbeat, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I can use that as a pickup and play 4 and. So there's all sorts of little combinations there where, again, as if I think of it as a pickup, the way Bill Stewart thought of it, when I do that, I play 4 and, then where's my right hand? It's on 1. So I can, play all, so I can actually go right into a paradiddle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Or, so the first time I started on 4. The second bar, I started it on 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So there's like a little 4-bar phrase where I just used 2 slight variations of that. And obviously, I was playing it at a faster tempo. So technique-wise, I'm still playing, my feet and hands are still moving at the same rate. That's either 1, 2, 3, triple the 1, or 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, da, 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 right? 1 and 2 and. So that's another area where I can use it, because once we get to that faster tempo, maybe the triplet's a little bit too much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I don't know. Actually, I think it works pretty well fast too. But you can imagine that there's a tempo that you can eventually reach where that triplet becomes a little bit compressed, and all of a sudden we're squeezing it out. And to be able to have a duple version or an eighth note version gives you more options. Now all of a sudden, one thing I mentioned before is with the Charlie Parker phrase is finding ways to play a slow version when you've got all this space, and find ways to play a fast version of the same language, just a little more thinned out so that it speaks clearly at a fast tempo. So check out all those tiny little variations we've done to this one Bill Stewart phrase. The phrase itself is just worth playing. But all those tiny variations, notice how little we did to it. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. Change the sticking, just reverse the sticking. Only use part of the phrase. Find a way to play an up-tempo version of the same phrase. Start it on a different beat. Replace one of the strokes with a different drum. Things like that, I think, are tiny little adjustments that all of a sudden open up all these other avenues for the same piece of language. In the meantime, check out that Magnificent Seven drum transcription book, and check out a whole bunch of Bill Stewart, who's got a great vibe, and definitely has a unique sound and approach to the instrument, which is something to be coveted for sure. All right, good luck.